disclaimer. So now we're gonna go straight into our analysis. We'll start off with dollar. So yeah, if you're not familiar already, this is DomFX. Gonna be doing another weekly market review on what we predict is going to happen next week. So here we are. Gonna start off with 12-month. Only because it's went into this area. However, there's a potential for price to come further down into there. Because of the equal lows here, but yeah, ultimately those equal lows. But right now we're seeing, does it want to respect this fair value gap and start heading higher towards up here? The way we do that is so on the 6-month it's there as well, but on the 6-month we'll need it to close at least past here. If that's gonna happen, so 12-month is the highest, 3-month. So now on the 3-month we're seeing, does it want to respect this rejection, this is not rejection block, this breaker block. So if it's going to respect it, it won't go past here, and ideally we would want it to, so April or July, by July be back down there, close below, so it can just come up a bit and then come below, create that open, leave that open. But that's on 3-month. Right now it's May, so June, we've got the whole of May and the whole of June for it to come up and go below. If it comes up and continues going higher, then bias has changed, and would be expecting this high and that high. But for now, we are expecting bearish prices. On the monthly, you can see accumulated, manipulated, distributing. So now it's finally in the distribution phase. This is that whole range that we're expecting to clear at some point. If we look here, of this whole range, so this is based on the opening and closing, not the actual high. But yeah, here you can see it went to 0.5 level, went to the 0.75 level, now expecting it to eventually reach to the 0.25 level to then go to the 0.5 level. In this moment of time, price can, because it's in the middle at 0.5, we have to expect some ranging going on here, because it's at equilibrium, so it can go both ways. Here, because it's created that balanced price range, it didn't want to go into there until it took this low. It's taken this low and it's closed below that low, so there's a potential for price to respect that high. With that being said, that all depends on how this next week's price reacts off of this fair value gap. So this fair value gap would want it to ideally come up into there. If it, for Monday, if it decides to wick up but come lower by a lot and close lower, we'll potentially start seeing price go lower. But at this moment in time, it is bullish, potentially going to reach at least into there. We would want it to come into the 0.5 level of that whole range. That will mean for euro dollar, will potentially come lower into around these levels here, or potentially into there. But that's what we are expecting. So this is the 0.5 level on Euro USD. This is the 0.5 level on dollar. We would want price to come up into there, but there's that weekly fair value gap preventing it, uh, in its way to prevent any further price action upwards. But if it does break it for the week, we'll potentially use that as an inverted fair value gap to then continue going higher until this liquidity is swept before coming back lower. Why is this likely the case? Well, this has finally been taken out, so any retail is going to think it's broken lower of this support, so it's potentially going to go lower. Not only that, anyone who was long here and had put their stop loss there, they've been taken out, so they're selling what they bought at a lower price. They're selling to who? Smart money, who's going to buy that up to get up to some premium price. With that being said, it's done this within this range, so optimum trade entry, reaching the low, potentially reaching an entry here in this May June period, for it to start going lower. But yeah, ideally what we'd want to see is price move up, potentially take this high, and then start to look to go lower from there. If we are looking at higher prices, then what are we likely to see? So last week we did mention in the Telegram chat, we'll be waiting for price to reach into this fair value gap. It did so during NFP, but it failed to do anything else. Let's go on the daily as well for this. So you can see price went up into there, price went down into there, and rejected off nicely. At this point, if price is going to continue higher into this level here, into this fair value gap here, would want it to respect the consequent encroachment of that, or if it respects this fair value gap, decides to take this low, it will take these as well. And if it's taking these, it's likely going to take these equal lows here, and if it is going to go higher, we would want it to wick below these and then come back up to start continue going higher. So from here, we would expect, if it decides to wick above here and continue lower, not creating a fair value gap, would want it to start coming lower. Would also be willing to go lower if it rejects off of here, comes back up, fails to go below the high that it's created, and then starts to continue lower. We'll wait until it reaches here to see what it wants to do then. This will set up for Wednesday FOMC. The earlier days, Monday will be likely a good day. So if Monday sees us going lower, Tuesday starts ranging for Wednesday to reach here, and then Wednesday could either end up coming up going lower, taking out these lows, or respecting off of this and then start continue pursuing higher, for then Thursday and Friday to be even better days to start getting into that buy. So Wednesday will allow for that wick to be created because of the volatility of FOMC. So that's what we're expecting. Expecting lower prices at the start till here, wait for FOMC to do what it wants to do from this area, and then we'll look to see, does it want to start reaching higher prices such as this value gap. So that's what we're predicting right now for dollar. So we're predicting the opposite for Euro USD. So here we can see if it wants to respect the consequent encroachment, it will also be respecting this. If it does want to continue going higher, so if it breaks this consequent encroachment, we'll potentially look to see higher prices until these equal highs are raided into there, and that for Wednesday as well, and then start looking for these equal lows here and further price lower into potentially here. So that's our euro dollar and dollar predictions. We have predictions for ES, US 500, US 100, and the Dow Jones. So let's go on the monthly. So this price is concerning for bearish momentum, but it's clearly trapped a lot of people who were previously buying, or it's triggered in people who want to now sell because it broke that price, broke here. So everyone's thinking, oh, it's broke support, it's potentially started reverse. But this is what happens in US most of the time. If you look at previous price action, it just goes lower to manipulate everyone thinking it's a bear market, and then starts going higher, manipulates lower, starts to go higher, manipulates lower, starts to go higher, and then every single time a new high is created. But here, this fair value gap, it potentially look to use that lower, not fully close it, and then respect the consequent encroachment of this wick now around there before it starts taking out these old highs. So if we look on the daily, you can see it's resting close to this inverted fair value gap and this unfilled liquidity void, so it has the potential to go there. Same with US 100 and also Nasdaq. So if we look at the monthly, we can see if it does respect this and prevent doesn't end up reaching here, leaving this open, we'll look for the consequent encroachment of that, and then if it respects that, we'll start to look for higher prices again. So on the weekly, we're potentially expecting it to wick past up here. Let's draw that so you can see it clearer on the weekly. So potentially wick past higher, it could potentially close this, but if it does, it will potentially come back lower into around there. We have to wait and see. So the price action probably going to be like so, and then we would want it to close above here for the end of the week if it is going to continue higher, because that's going to be that order block. Why? There's a liquidity void to break that with this one, so we're going to use this as the order block. So that's stocks, indices. Now we're going to look at bonds. So bonds wise, it does opposite to what dollar does, or dollar does what does the opposite to what bonds do. Bonds rejected off of here, and it is starting to look quite bearish on the lower time frames. It's less so So it looks as if on the lower time frames, so potentially what we may see is for this month, on the lower time frame bonds, so like the 5-year note and the 10-year note, I believe it's 10-year, yeah, it's 10-year, we may see price wicking below here into filling the rest of it, and then starting to come back up because this has already taken the sell side. With here, because it's taken that, it's created equal lows, so we've got to be a bit skeptical of that. But this is the next like strongest bond, and then we've got the weakest of them all, which is this one. So this potentially we could see the low being raided while the other ones don't. So that lower movement will allow for dollar to move higher, and it will allow the other currencies to go move opposite to what dollar's doing. So yeah, that's that. We'll have a look at gold. So it's created that high. We'll potentially want to come lower a bit. We're not predicting any highs here, but this fair value gap looks promising. So we'll need to see if it's going to reject off of that. If we look on the daily, yeah, so it's respected this, but we need to see, does it want to use this as an inverted fair value gap because it has closed below the constant encroachment of it, coming back up into the constant encroachment of it to then take it lower here. But if it is going to go lower here, what we'd need to see is it wick below this low, and then start to move higher. However, if it does to continue going lower, we don't want it to close below here. If it does, it's a bit more of a bias change, so it will allow for price to go to this order block here, but any further than that is a bit of a problem. So here you can see allow for it to go into the midpoint of that, while making sure that price does come back up for the remainder of May. But that is our current prediction. We've done a bit of gold, done a bit of dollar, done a bit of euro dollar. We'll do a bit of pound dollar. So pound dollar's just taken that high, and would want to see price start to look to come lower, potentially filling this. That would mean going into constant encroachment of this wick. If it does decide to move a lot higher with dollar by going up to there, we'll potentially see it go up to constant encroachment of this wick and look to seek this gap. This gap that is created. Technically, this would be the new week opening gap there. So Friday open up on the Monday. So yeah, we'd likely see price reaching down into there. But that's if price can nicely reject. So you can see here Monday 28th April created a new high, whereas Monday 28th April refused to. So you can see SMT divergence happening for price to go lower. Like this failed to take the low, this failed to take the high, while pound had taken the high. So now if dollar's going to take this low, we'll potentially see pound going up into here, this fair value gap, while euro dollar takes the high but fails to take that high. Same with dollar here, taking this low while failing to take this low, and then we'll want to start to see, does price want to get up further into there. So that's our predictions for the coming week of 4th of May. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. If you want more, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're updated on whenever I go live for these market reviews. And yeah, thank you for watching, and peace out.